Hello beautiful souls. I'm going to turn this packaging into a mini album, and you can turn any packaging into a mini album that you feel is very decorative. You know, you want to do something with it, you just don't want it sitting around. You know, some of you might regift it to someone else, but if you want to repurpose a packaging that you find really pretty, I'm going to show you how to convert it into a mini album. You could also do these with cards that, you know, people gift you with. People send you beautiful cards and you don't want to throw them out, and besides which, it's probably going to have a lovely sentiment in it. So you can convert it into a mini album. This is for my swap partners who were in the Happy Mail, the Swapper's Delight Happy Mail swap hosted by Tamika from Scrap the World. But if you don't, you know, for anybody else who were not, you know, who didn't receive one of these, because obviously I can't make one for everybody. So you can make a different cover and a different back for yours. So we're going to start with preparing all the papers. We're going to prepare everything. So all we have to do is assemble. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out 4 chipboards. We can recycle chipboard from food packaging, and the measurements will be 5.5 by 7 1/8. You're also going to need 4 cardboards to cover the chipboard, and it's going to be a little bit bigger than that. And the measurements for that is 6 3/4 by 8 1/4. I used a 12 by 12 cardboard. If you don't have 12 by 12, that's okay. You don't need a 12 by 12 to do that with. However, the remainder of the 12 by 12, once I cut this out, I had extra pieces. So I decided to use those extra pieces and incorporate them in the mini album. So here's what I did. You're going to be left with a piece like this. After you cut this, you know, after you cut the pieces off, you're also going to be left with pieces like this. And you're going to have 4 of each. So for this one here, and we're going to cut these only at the 10.5 mark. So it's going to, this is going to be from here to here, 5 1/4 by 10.5. And you're going to score at 1/2 inch here, 5 1/4 here, and 10 inches here. So these 2 edges are 1/2 inch each, and then the middle is going to be scored at 5 1/4. So you're going to have 4 of these. When I first did it, I did it at I kept it at 12 inches, and then I scored at the 1/2 inch, 6 inches, and 11.5. And I made a boo-boo with that. So this is how I had attached it, and you will see this in the video, but this is not going to be the right measurements. This is actually the right measurement. So make sure you cut these at 10.5 inches long, and it's already going to be 5 1/4 inches wide. So you don't have to worry about that, okay? In the video, you will see how I attached these, and I made a huge boo-boo because it's not supposed to be this long, since we're going to add holes to make binder rings. So when you see that part of the video where I'm attaching these, please ignore that. Ignore the fact that this is the same width as the chipboard. So okay? You're also going to create mats for these. So you're going to cut your designer paper at 4.5, a little bit over 4.5, and 5 16 this way. So you're going to do that for these two sides. So you're going to do that for all 4 of these that you create. You're also going to need, once we cover this chipboard, we're going to have a blank space here and we're going to have a blank space here. So we're going to need our design paper for that. And those measurements are going to be for front and back. They're going to be 7 by 7/16. What that means is just below the half inch mark. 7/16 is just below the half inch mark. And you're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to need 6 design paper of your choosing. I'm not going to share with you what paper I'm using. You might not have what I have. So use your design paper that will coordinate with your packaging. Okay? We're going to have these also. These you leave as is. We're going to create tags with these. We're also going to make a waterfall. We're going to make 2 sets of waterfalls. So the measurements for that are going to be, I know I wrote it down on one of these. Okay, here it is. Okay, so we're going to need 8 of these. That's going to be 5.5 by 4.5, which is just, okay, let's see. 4.5 is just, well, it's under the, you can put it at 4.5 or you can put it under the 4.5. Either or, it's going to work fine. All right, and you're going to need 8 of these to cover the front. Okay, so the first step we're going to do is we're going to take this off. We're going to detach these also. We're going to heat it up because this is just attached with hot glue. So we're just going to heat it up with a heat tool and we're just going to pull it out. We're going to do the same thing to this. Okay, take out your the card that your embellishments came out. If it's not in there, don't worry about it. I'm going to pull these off and I'm going to take this butterfly off, which is just a very tiny clothespin. All right, now we're going to cut into this. I'm going to take this apart now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start from here. I'm just going to cut it in the middle. I am not going to try to cut where we actually need to cut because it might not come out straight. So I'm going to just cut it in the middle this way. Okay, now we're going to trim this nicely. Let's cut these parts off to flatten it out. I cut all my parts out and I removed this ribbon. We will be using this. Nothing is going to waste in here. So we're going to be reusing this within the mini album. So I removed it. What I did was when this was attached, I put the heat gun this way. I was pulling, I was holding, holding it as much as I could. And I was pulling it this way very slowly, and it just came apart. And there's actually really no residue glue here. And for this one, I was doing the same thing. And I also heated up here. And I just pulled it out, and then I pressed it back since the glue melted, and I just pressed it back in place. So that's what I did. Now we're going to start covering the chipboard. You could also use If you don't want to use a solid cardstock to cover the chipboard, you could also use design paper. It doesn't even have to be heavyweight. Not heavyweight. It doesn't have to be like a cardstock design paper. It could be that design paper that's like printing paper. Of course, it's a lot thicker than printing paper. You can use the 12 by 12 one. So we're going to do this to all 4 chipboards. We're going to cut off the edges here, just to leave a little hangover. Just leave like a little, like 1/8 of an inch or even a 1/16 of an inch hangover. You're going to do that to all the corners. I would suggest that you don't angle it too much because you don't want the chipboard to show. Okay, so I'm going to do this to give it a little bend. And I will add my glue. You can use any kind of glue that's your favorite, that you like to use mostly. I use various glues depending on what I'm doing. This lighting looks a little orange to me. Let me see something. I don't know. I think it still looks a little orange to me. I gotta get better lighting. Okay. So I'm just gonna fold this over and give it a good burnish with my bone folder. I gotta do something about this lighting, seriously. Okay, so we're gonna do this for all 4 of these. We have all our chipboard covers. For now, we're only gonna be working with these 2. These longer pieces, so we're gonna fold it like this. And I'm going to move that one to the side. We're going to fold it inward like this. Let me move this off the way. We're going to fold this one like this. And we're going to fold this one like this. Or bend it. Bend it, fold it, burnish. Okay? So this is how it's going to be. We're going to do that to all 4 of these pieces. So we're going to attach them to here. This is going to be our second page. So we're going to attach, let's see. Okay. So the one that's bended like under, we're going to attach that here with some glue. Okay. Make sure it's even on the bottom and on the sides. Okay. We're going to flip this one over. Now, as a matter of fact, we're going to do the same thing here first before we flip that over. So again, the flap that's going under, we will add some glue. You can use your double-sided tape for this as well. You can use your Fabri-Tac glue, which is one of my favorite glues. That was one of the first glues I've worked with since I worked with a lot of fabric and I did a lot of cloth dolls. That is my go-to glue. I love that glue. Fabri-Tac rocks. Okay, even here and on the bottom. I'm going to make sure it didn't shift. Okay. So that's going to be like that. Now we're going to flip it over, both, and we're going to attach these to this side, not this side. Okay. All right. So the part that's folded under, we're going to attach that here. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. I actually wanted to do a decorative edge here with one of my punches. That's okay, I could always add lace. You can use your decorative edge punches or your decorative edge dies to cut a nice border here. I was going to do that and it totally slipped my mind. And we're going to do the same thing to this side. We're going to glue here, and we're going to do this to all 4 of them. And we're going to glue down here. This is going to create a pocket. That created a pocket. That is where these are going to come in. Our tags are going to go right in there. See? So we're going to do this to all 4 of them. Okay, so this is how I corrected it. I just cut it off at 3/4 of an inch, and that is so much better. Now I have this edge for the holes. In paper crafting, we can always change it. We can always alter. We can always hide our mistakes. And people will never know. You will never know. Unless you watch our videos. Now we're going to work on... Wow, this is what I did here. This is what I'm doing. I'm attaching lace to the sides here because it didn't have any. Just like this, it only had lace up here and down here. There's none here on the sides. So I just added these 2 layers. I'm gonna add 2 more layers, which is the same lace that I have here. Of course, you guys don't have, may not have the lace I have. So you can attach it with a different kind of a lace and it'll still be pretty because it'll be even more shabby. Or you can leave it alone. You don't have to, do anything else to it, but I personally want to add that here. To this one, I'm actually going to leave it as is. I'm not even going to add lace to the sides at all. So here's what I did. I just added lace to these edges, and then I pleated it. I gathered it on the edges so that it'll curve, and then I added another piece of lace here, and I gathered it here, glued it down, did the same thing, gathered it here, glued down the lace, gathered it here, and so on and so forth. So I did 2 layers. I did the blue first, then the pink, then I'm going to do this one, which I'm only going to do on each of these sides. I'm not going to attach it here at all. And then I'm going to add this layer there, which is going to be the last layer. I'm going to do that to this side. I'm not going to do it to the top or bottom at all. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Okay, so this is how it looks after I added the lace. Now we need to attach these two that do not have the these flaps here. Well, you know. Okay, so we're going to take those two, we're going to attach them to the back of these. This is going to extend out. I believe it's right there. And this is going to stick out. And some of the chipboard is going to show. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out a piece, I believe this is 2 1/4 by 7 1/4, and we're going to glue that down here. So that way, if the lace tends to lift up, it'll be finished, okay? And the reason why we have an overhang here is because we're going to make holes for the binder rings. That's how I'm going to make the mini album. I'm going to use binder rings to make this. Okay, I'm going to attach this one to the back, since I'm going to have to do this one off camera, because I'm going to have a difficult time seeing where the edge of the front cover is. And since this doesn't have the lace here or here, I'm able to see that clearly. So all we're gonna do is first I'm gonna glue that piece here. Okay, we're gonna do that first. We want to glue this part really well. This is because it's the back. Well, we want to glue all our pieces very well anyway. Okay, so and I'm going to leave a little tiny border. Okay. There goes that crazy lighting again. Okay, so there we have it. We're going to glue this part to this. We're going to glue it flush on the edge, top and bottom, and on this edge. And this part is going to be showing. That's where we're going to do the holes. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. You want to add plenty of glue to this. Alright, now let's glue this down. And make sure that this part is facing out and sticking out. I would recommend using a wet glue so that you have wiggle time. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one off camera. Okay, so now we're going to continue working on these. I'm going to turn these over. And we're going to cut 4 of these. These are for the waterfall. We're going to do one for the front and we're going to do one for the back. Look here, make sure this is the part that the holes are going to be created. And we're going to align these on this side on the right side of the front cover in the inside. Okay, so these are going to get glued on like this. I'm going to scoot it over just a little bit. So, oh, oopsie, before we do that, we got to put our paper down. So this is the paper I'm going to put here. So this paper goes in first. We're finally going to glue on our design paper. And to hold our waterfall down, I'm actually going to add, I'm going to attach something here and bring it over to hold this down. And I'm going to do that, I'm probably going to do that with magnets. Everyone does not have magnets. Okay, I'm going to do it with ribbon because everybody does not have magnets. And I'm pretty sure everybody has some kind of ribbon laying around. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that first. Okay, so I went and got my ribbon. And I cut one longer than the other. Let's see how many inches. I eyeballed this. I didn't really measure. This is, the one is 6.5 and the other one is about 8 7/8. I believe it's close to the 9. I believe that's 7/8, 8 7/8. Okay, or you could just make it 9 inches. Because the bottom ribbon has to be longer than the one that's going to be on top, because this is going to fold over further up, then this is going to, you know, this is just going to be right there. All right, so I'm going to align my first I'm going to use this glue. This is just like Fabri-Tac glue. I have Fabri-Tac glue, but I didn't want to open it, so I'm going to use this. And by the way, this is how I attached my lace also to the paper. I don't use regular white glue, and I don't use hot glue, because hot glue is going to make it bulky. So I used this. You could also use Fabri-Tac, but this is just like Fabri-Tac. Alright, so I'm going to align this right about here. And I'm going to take my longest ribbon. You're going to do that for the back side as well. But we're working on the front side. So I'm going to align this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do this one first. Center that as much as possible. Okay. I'm going to keep it right there, and then, wait, we don't need this yet. I didn't glue this down yet, so don't do that yet. Okay. And because I want this to be uniformed, I'm going to glue this here. Okay, so the longest one is going to go down here. The shortest one, I'll do it this way. It's going to go on the very first waterfall mat. Okay. Now we can glue our paper down. And for that, I'm just going to use the regular white glue. Okay. I was just erasing what I've done back here. I numbered all my papers according to how I wanted each page to be. So you may want to do that since we pre-cut everything. I'm going to glue this down very, very well. And this has a little tiny border. So the measurements I gave you has a little tiny border. Okay. Okay, now we're going to glue these waterfalls down. I noticed that if I move my hand in a certain way towards the camera, that's what creates the orange lighting. I don't know what to do about that. Okay. We're going to align, we're going to fold this under, and we're going to line this part just under here. Just like so. We're going to glue that, and we're going to repeat the process. Okay, so this is the last one I've already did. This is 1, 2, 3, and this is the last one. And make sure that before you set this in permanently, that everything aligns as neat as possible on the sides. Now I can glue that in place permanently. The great thing about waterfalls, creating waterfalls in mini album, is if you don't have a lot of pages in your mini album, it creates so much space to put pictures. Okay, I'm going to probably put a decorative element here to cover this part. So now you will see why I made the bottom ribbon longer than the top. Was this going to come up here, and it's taking up that much room, and this is going to remain up here. So if you notice, I like having my ribbon one longer than the other, because as I tie it, one side is going to be shorter than the other if they're both even. But if one is longer than the other, it'll be just about even. See? So there we have it. And now you can put your designer paper on top of each of them. You can put them underneath too. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that yet. I may decide to do that, or I may decide just to leave it blank. So this holds everything down. So once you put your photos in here, it's going to, create a little bit more bulk. So this is why it's important to make sure that you find a way to, to hold this down. I could have easily put a piece of paper here, a decorative piece of paper with a pretty edge or something. I could have done it with lace and added some magnets to hold it down. That's another way to hold this down. Okay, so that's that. We're going to do the very same thing to this side. We're going to cut our ribbon. So this is the paper I'm going to use here, right? But we're not going to do this yet. Remember, we're going to find... So this is where the holes are going to be. When you flip it over, the holes are going to be here. Okay, I'm going to attach ribbons to here so that these stay closed. You can tie them and they'll stay closed. Again, I'm going to use this glue. I'm going to eyeball the center. And let's see how long this one is. This is about 7.5. And we're going to attach one on this side. And this is on this, hold on. So I kind of pull this out. Okay. So on this side, it's going to be longer because this is actually going to wrap all the way on this side and tie over here in the center. So this one is about 9 3/4. Okay, so it'll tie this way. Like so. And it'll keep it closed. So now you can start matting these with your designer paper. Okay, so now that we're finished gluing down our papers, I glued down my papers except for the ones on the tags. But all my papers are nicely glued. I also went ahead and glued this ribbon up. So I noticed when I was tying it, it was lifting the paper up a little bit. So you may want to glue, just fold it over a little bit and just glue about 1/8 of an inch or even 1/4 of an inch is good. And I just glued some lace there. Okay, so I've already started making my holes. So I'm going to start, I think it's best to start in the back since the front has this lace going on here. If yours don't have this, then you can do it from the front, but mine has it, of course. So I just, this is from here to here is about 6 inches. And then I just made a mark here in the middle at the 3-inch mark, so it's all evenly spaced. You decide how you want to do this, and I'm going to use binder rings. Some people may want to use ribbon, you know, as a substitute for binder rings. You can do that too. I've seen mini albums like that where they added ribbon as a substitute for binder rings. So, but I'm going to use binder rings, and these are 1.5 inches in size. Okay, so all you got to do is take the next page and just line it up, and take your pencil, and I just traced a hole on there. And there it is. So I'm going to punch these out and then do the same thing on the next page and trace the hole here. And then finally, when these get punched out, I'm going to trace it here. And that's basically all that you have to do. I'm going to do a flip through of this on another video. This one is a little too long, so I'm not going to embellish it on this video, but I will do a flip through of how I embellished mine. My swap partners who received this had some, I put some goodies in there, some appliques and some pretty images. They can use that as their embellishments. There's flower kits in there that they could also use as embellishments to embellish, you know, this mini album if they choose to turn their packaging into a mini album. So this is pretty much it. So this is the first page, second page, third page, and fourth page. Some, you know, the ribbons that came out from here, from the closure, you can use that to embellish the inside. You can make bows out of it and stick them anywhere. I'm also going to use this card that I had attached the embellishments on. So the video for this flip through is in the description box below. The video to make paper clips is also linked in the description box below. With that being said, all is well. Let's share, be fair, be filled with love, and love one another. Take care, everybody.